to my channel. I'm Anne and today I'm bringing you the best books that I read in 2025. So I had 64 5-star reads in 2025, which were all amazing. 2025 was a really great reading year for me and I struggled to narrow this down to a top 10, so we're ending with a top 20. So these are the top 20 books that I loved and will always recommend in 2025. So the first book was one that I read very early on in the year, and that is The Mist Thief by L.J. Andrews. This is book 3 in the Everseas series, and book 1 and book 2 are following a couple, and then book 3 is following another couple. Now, I did love The Ever King. That was one of my favourite reads of 2024. I did love The Ever Queen, and then I also love The Mist Thief. But The Mist Thief I think just was a little bit more of a favourite than The Ever Queen. The Ever Queen is a 5-star read for me, so this whole series is just 5 stars. So this is following on from the aftermath of book 1 and book 2, where Jonas has decided that he is going to marry this woman as a way to bring peace to him and his people, and that's his mission right now. I love these two together. They are just absolutely stunning. This is the indie edition. It has been traditionally published now, but I just love this. I love the growth that both of them have throughout this series. I love that they kind of started as just this marriage of convenience. They didn't really want to hang out, but the way that Jonas was like, you're my wife, I'm going to protect you and I'm going to take care of you even though we're not in love with one another, and just the way that they convinced each other that they weren't in love with one another, but clearly they were in love with one another. And I just love delving more into this world. I love seeing Jonas with his family and the other characters that we meet in book 1 and book 2, and kind of delving more into them and their relationships, and kind of seeing Jonas and his family. And this one really made me want to read her previous series that is kind of like the prequel series to this series, about all of their parents. I really love Jonas's parents and I just love the dynamic in here, and it's definitely one of my favourite reads of this year. The next favourite that I had in the year of 2025 was Phantasma by Kaylee Smith, and it became so popular that I just knew I had to pick it up. My friend and I actually buddy read it together, Rosie, and it was just a really good time. So this is following our main character Ophelia, and she is like in this world there is ghosts and ghouls and demons and things like that, and Ophelia is part of this world, and her sister ends up going missing and taking place and deciding to take part in Phantasma, which is this deadly competition, but if you win you get granted your one wish. So Ophelia decides to join Phantasma as well to save her sister, and ends up coming face to face with Blackwell, who is this ghoul slash ghost, and we watch them as they partner together as they are trying to win this thing so Ophelia can save her sister. And a lot of things are revealed. We delve deep into this world. I love the dark gothic horror vibes throughout this whole story. I really love Ophelia and the OCD vibe throughout here. I don't have OCD, but I've heard from people who have OCD that it is very well represented within the story. I really love this one, and I did read Enchantra as well this year, and that is also a 5-star read, but it's not on my favourites list because I think Phantasma just beat it out just a smidge. But I love both of these and I'm very excited for book 3. The next one on my list is Heliacal Rising by C.C. Davies. So this is the indie edition. It has now been traditionally published by New Dawn Publishing. This is a signed edition, and I have all of these indie editions. These are like my prized possessions. So when I joined Bookstagram and met a couple of people, they were screaming about this series, and I know and have no doubt now that this whole series is going to be absolutely fantastic. I read book 1 early on in 2025, and I'm sad that I didn't get to continue with this series, but 2026 I absolutely will be. But this is about our main character Amelia, and from a young age she was taken in by this sort of, what's his name, lord, who raises her to be a good wife, be obedient, and raise children, bear and raise children. That's all she knows, until she comes face to face with these other beings and finds out that she may have this magic that she didn't know about, and ends up going on an adventure with them. She is learning about herself, her magic, and we're following like this rumblings of war and exploring this new world. It is stunning, it is beautiful, it is dark. So do be aware and check your trigger warnings, but I love this and I cannot wait to continue with this series. It is just so freaking good. The next one that I read and loved this year was When Fear Danced with Courage by Zoe J. Breyer. So this is book 2 in a interconnected standalone series, the When Deity is Awakened series. Book 1 is Book 1 is When Death Called Life Home. But in this one, we're following our main character, Amelia, and she is in this scenario that she really doesn't want to be in, and she wants to go home. So her and Osiris go on this mission to get her to go home, and they have been forbidden. Osiris has been forbidden to do anything with Amelia. There's no romance, they're not allowed to do anything. And that kind of leads to this forbidden romance sort of dynamic between Amelia and Osiris. Osiris was not my favorite character in book 1, but I knew that he would get his redemption in book 2, and he truly did. This story is just so stunning and beautiful. It explores so many topics, it explores a lot of trauma, and it delves deep into the found family and finding that one person who trusts you and believes in you. And this book is just amazing. I don't know how it hasn't blown up yet. It's so freaking good. And Zoe J. Breyer is just this beautiful human being. This is an ARC edition of the indie cover because I am an alpha reader for Zoe, so I read these very early on, and then she gifted me with this ARC copy. But this series is just so good and I cannot wait for book 3. If you haven't been on my channel for a long period of time, you probably don't know this about me, but I am obsessed with this one book, and I've been talking about it and forcing so many people to freaking read it, and I just cannot wait for more from this author and from these characters. But this is A Wolf in the Garden by Allegra Hall. So I have wanted to read Allegra for a long time, and in April I was going to a book convention where Allegra was going to be, so I knew I had to read this before I went so I could buy a physical copy. And I read the audiobook of this and fell absolutely in love. This is a monster romance where we're following Ellie, who is Ellie and Van, and they are living in a world where this veil has disappeared from Earth. And this veil was hiding a bunch of monsters and paranormal beings from humans. Some of them didn't know that they were monsters, some of them did. But Ellie is revealed to be a fae, and she kind of hides this, and she is just living her life, being a gardener and kind of having her own little business of landscaping and things like that. And she is told that this very rich American guy is coming and she should apply to like redesign and do his gardens for him. Turns out that this is Van, who is also her ex-boyfriend that they were dating when they were younger. So it's a second chance romance based in New Zealand, with Ellie being a Maori character, so we have that Maori representation throughout here. And I just fell in love with this book. I love it so much. Like, there's not a lot that happens in here, but it's very slow moving, it is very character focused, and I just love Allegra Hall. I've read a lot of her books this year. I've read Howl and I've read Lost and Found, so I literally have 2 novellas that I have to read from Allegra to finish all the books that she's written, which I'm very excited about. But yeah, I love this book. I've made so many of my friends read it and they've also loved it. The next one is, let me just double check because I do have some. So the next one that I read was The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. So this is the 10th anniversary edition, so it's re-edited and revised, but I do also own the original because that's how long I've wanted to read this series. And this came out in my book battle vlog, or my shelf and shelf vlog, and immediately I fell in love with this. So this is a hard one to explain. So this is kind of dystopian, kind of fantasy, kind of sci-fi. We're following Paige Mahoney in this futuristic world, but also a dystopian world where clairvoyancy is illegal. Paige is a clairvoyant, and one day she gets caught using her powers, and she ends up being put in this prison that no one really knows about, and she has to deal with the consequences of being caught. and the whole world explodes from there. I don't really want to talk too much about it because this is very hard to explain and there's a lot that goes into here, but I fell in love with this Paige. Is this Irish character and I just love her Irish isms, and it just made me feel at home with Paige. And she is a very strong and determined character, and the amount of shit that she goes through in this book is insane. And I have continued with this series and it is a 5-star, and I have a feeling that this whole series is going to be 5 stars, but I'm just sad that it's not finished yet. There are still 2 more books to come before this whole series is finished. So I've read book 1, book 2, and I've read the prequel novella. So I've got book 3, another novella, and book 4 and book 5. But I'm very, very excited to continue with this series. The next one that I want to talk about is Rhodey by Cleo Brands. Cleo Brown is another NZ indie author, and I randomly picked this up right before Ages of Pages on Kindle Unlimited to be like, let's check it out. It's a dark motorcycle club romance, and I was very intrigued. So I devoured this basically in one day. So this is book 1 in the Devil's Rose Motorcycle Club, and I just fell in love with this. So this is about our main character Tuesday, and she is this neurospicy, hilarious, very smart young woman who ends up just working in her family's security business, and she's very good with like hacking and getting information. And she ends up going on this job where she has to infiltrate the Devil Rose Motorcycle Club. And she comes face to face with Rhodey, and kind of this chaos ensues. It is hilarious. I was like cracking up the whole time. Tuesday is just crazy, like wackadoodle crazy, but I love every single second of her. And Rhodey is like, this chick is insane, but I want her. She is mine and I want to be with her. And she's very neurospicy, so she's a lot of issues and a lot of struggles throughout this, but I just loved how everyone kind of gathered around her and was like, okay, yeah, like you're who you are and this is who you are, so let's go. I also love her granddad, and I just had the best time. So if you love like Butcher and Blackbird and Lights Out, I think you would really, really love this. And Cleo is just an wonderful human being. And I also did continue with the series. I read book 2 in this series and I also loved it, so there's that. The next one is not just one book, it is a whole series apart from book 1, because book 1 was one of my favorite reads of 2024, but I reread that one and then carried on with this series, and that is the Kingdom of Lies series by Stacia Stark. I am obsessed, like absolutely obsessed. I love this series with my whole entire heart, and I cannot believe it's over. I laughed, I cried, I grinned, I kicked my feet. But if you don't know what this series is about, it starts with A Court This Cruel and Lovely, and we're following our main character Priska. And in this world, when you are a baby, your magic is taken away and kind of given to help keep this kingdom prosperous and wonderful and blah blah blah. And at the age of 25, you get a segment of your power back, and then that is used to help society in some way. But the thing is, there are people in this world where their magic doesn't actually get taken away, and they have this secret magic that they grow up with the whole time, which is illegal, which means if you're found, you and your whole family will be killed for hiding this scenario. So Priska has this magic, her family have been hiding it, and she ends up having to go on the run because she has possibly been found out. So she goes on the run and meets a group of mercenaries, and then they go on this mission to get Priska out of here. I love this. Lorraine and Priska's relationship is stunning. I love the slow burn of it. I love the tension and the banter, and I just love all of the characters and the family dynamic in here, and this whole series is just amazing, and I think I'm going to reread it all the freaking time. Stacia Stark can literally do no wrong. I am obsessed, and I loved every single second of it. The next one, I don't own just a normal paperback version of it. I have the special edition, and that is In the Wake of the Wicked by V.B. Lacey. Guys, stunning, with an overlay. And these end papers. Like, what? So this is a fantasy romance that has no spice. But I loved every single second of it. So in this one, we're following our main character, Rose. And she is an alchemist, and she has kind of been placed in the care of her aunt and uncle from a young age because her father and mother have passed away. She doesn't truly feel like she is welcome or loved, and doesn't believe that she is loved and can trust people. And she's a lot of issues. Let's be real. And every couple of years, or there is this set of trials that happens where everyone from each individual area of this kingdom comes together, and they compete in these trials, and who wins gets the most power, and then who comes second gets a little bit less, and so on and so forth. And this is how they divide the magic within the kingdom. And Rose's uncle is competing, but also in this world there is this sleeping disease where people are falling asleep and never waking up again. And this happens to her uncle, and then Rose ends up having to take part in these trials, where she meets Leo, who is her enemy, and they have to work together to try and get her to win these trials. And she is learning a lot of things that she didn't know about in this world. And we just watch their slow burn enemies to lovers romance, enemies to reluctant allies to lovers romance, and it's just so freaking good. Like, I had to get the special edition. I love this so much. Rose is such a relatable character. She is prickly, she is sarcastic, she doesn't trust people, she doesn't open up. And Leo is the same. He believes he's a lot of trauma based on certain things that happened in his past, and it is a lot of overcoming of fears and trauma throughout this book, and I just loved every single second of it, and I cannot wait to continue. These are a series of standalones, so this is a complete book between this couple, and I'm currently reading book 2 and having the greatest time. The next book on this is one that I don't own physically, which I'm sad about, but that is All the Missing Pieces by Catherine Cowles. So this is a contemporary romance with suspense. It's a suspenseful contemporary romance, I think. It's sort of this new genre that has kind of come through. I've heard a lot of people talk about Catherine Cowles, and I decided to pick up one of her standalones just so I wasn't jumping into this 6-book series of interconnected standalone romances. But I love this. So in this one, we're following our main character, who is a podcaster, and she goes around and investigates different crimes that happen. And she ends up going to the small town because she has gotten this feeling that there is a serial killer, and this serial killer may have been involved in the disappearance of her sister many years ago. She comes to face with this grumpy sheriff who doesn't want her in this town, who doesn't want her investigating because no one talks about what's happened in this town. And we just watch them as they fight and banter and slowly start to fall in love, and as they start to investigate what has actually happened to these girls that have gone missing. And it's just wonderful. I really enjoyed it. I cried at the end of this, both happy and sad tears. We're watching both of these characters struggle with their trauma, especially our female main character, because her sister is gone and no one knows where she is, and her body has never been found. So it's just really good, and I loved every single second of it. And now I'm a Catherine Cowles stan, and I'm going to be reading everything that she ever writes because that's how we do it in this household. The next one absolutely destroyed me, but that is Rumours of Rage and Revenge by Celia Rourke. So this is book 3 and the final in the Crooked Crowns trilogy. Celia Rourke is an Australian indie author, and I fell in love with Celia right from book 1. I arc read book 1, beta read book 2, and then beta read book 3. Rumours destroyed me. This was the perfect ending to a trilogy, especially with how book 1 and book 2 went. It was the perfect ending. Even though I didn't want it to be that ending, it was the perfect ending for this book. So in book 1, we're following Clara, and she has this magic that she shouldn't really have, and that has gotten the king's attention. And she ends up being taken to go to the king. And we kind of watch her as she has this We watch her on this journey of her learning all of her powers and finding her own family and fighting against a tyrannical king that she absolutely despises. So yeah, we're watching that, and it's just this heartfelt, beautiful, banter-filled story where Clara is so strong-willed and stubborn and confident, and she's a curvy badass who isn't afraid to talk about sex, who isn't afraid to take pleasure, and it's just this wonderful freaking series. And book 3 had me sobbing, but in a way that was just, it was how the story needed to end. And I've made so many of my friends read this book, and I highly recommend that you read this trilogy. It is wonderful. Celia's writing is just so lush and beautiful and descriptive, and it's just amazing in every single shape or form, and I highly recommend that you check it out. Whew. The next one is another series, because I read this whole freaking series in 2025 as a buddy read with 3 of my best friends, Steph, Nettie, and Lydia. I love you guys if you're watching this. If not, that's okay, I'll still love you guys. But that is the Beasts of the Briar series. I don't own book 1. I read book 1 on Kindle, but I have read all of these. So this is a Beauty and the Beast Why Choose fantasy romance series. So we're following, in book 1 we're following Rosalie, and she is a Rosalina, and her father goes missing, and she ends up on a mission trying to find her father, and she ends up in this Fae realm with 4 princes of the realm of Fae, and we're watching her as she slowly falls in love with each and every one of them. I had the best freaking time with this. They get chunky as we go along. Book 1 is like half of this size, and then they just get bigger as we go along, but this is a wonderful series. Each book focuses on a prince, which I really love, and there is this villain that we all love, and I just cannot wait. It was such an experience to buddy read this whole thing with my best friends, and we have caught up with this, like what's released. Book 5 is coming out in April, and we're absolutely going to be reading book 5 together as well. And yeah, I just had the absolute best time with this. The smut, the banter, the overarching plot line, the strength of these characters, especially with everything that they've gone through, is just really beautiful, and I cannot wait to see where book 5 takes us. And yeah, that is just absolutely one of my favorite reads of this year as well, the whole entire series. The next one is These Hearts We Shatter by Shannon R. Lear. I read This Deceit of Ours last year, and it's one of my favorite books of 2024. Then I reread it again this year to continue with this series, and this is book 2, and I just love this series. This is a epic sequel to book 1. It is chunkier, there is more tension, there is more banter, there is more smut, there is more just watching Sin and Ceres go face to face. Saoirse go face to face and like deal with what happened in the end of book 1. Obviously I'm not going to talk about what happened in book 2, but I just loved it. So in This Deceit of Ours, it is following Saoirse, and her father has gone missing, but she believes that he is still alive. And one night she ends up meeting a prince, and he decides to agree to help her find her father if she agrees to marry him. And we watch this marriage of convenience as they start investigating her father's disappearance, and book 2 reveals so many things and starts to tie all these little loose knots up from book 1, and it was just absolutely amazing. I don't know how this book isn't more popular. Shannon R. Lear is a freaking genius, and I just cannot wait for book 3. Fingers crossed it's coming out in 2026. But yeah, the cliffhanger at the end of book 2 had me jaw dropped on the ground. Like, I could not believe she went where she went, and like I just can't. It's so freaking good. Absolute amazing read. Another one is The Crown of Olympus by Kate Asher. This is a fantasy romance with Greek mythology inspired, obviously. So in this one we're following our main character, who's the daughter of Hades, and she ends up being pulled into this this trial with all the other gods in to fight for the crown of Olympus because Zeus has passed away. Zeus has been murdered. Let's be correct here. And she is this fiery, stubborn person who is fighting for this crown, and she's taking names. She is a badass, and I freaking love her. I love the family dynamic between her and Chiron, and I love the relationship, and I just love everything about this. This book had me sobbing as well. I really loved it. The Greek mythology is just top tier. I love the direction that Kate Asher has gone with this book. The trials were deadly, but they were so amazing because each god would then set one of the trials, and it was just so much fun. And yeah, I just had a really great time. I really liked the slow burn, friends to sort of enemies to friends to lovers sort of dynamic. And I'm very excited to continue with this series. I have gotten onto Kate's Street Team, which is amazing. So I will be getting an early copy of the next book, which I'm very excited about. But yeah, made me sob at the end. And I just, amazing work. And I cannot wait for more people to read it. The next one is another series. I binge read this series in the space of like a couple of weeks because we were prepping for a podcast interview with this author, and I hadn't read any of her books, and she wanted to specifically talk about this series, and that is the Lost Gods series by Sheila Masterson. Guys, the amount of tears, the amount of trauma that this book put me through was insane. Like, the pain. Sheila Masterson is a genius, but she's also the bane of my existence because she made me cry so many freaking times. But the Lost God series is about Celia, and she is a memory witch. And in this world, each memory witch has to pair up with a guardian, and they have to go on these journeys to finish all of these little trials around the place to then release the magic into the world to keep their kingdom safe. And we're watching Celia as she is doing this with her guardian Hunter, Rainer, who is she's in love with him, but their romance is forbidden. And in a set of circumstances, she has to separate from Rainer and comes face to face with this hunter named Xander, and we watch them as they are journeying to keep Celia safe. And it's just, there's a lot that happens in here, and I don't even know how to explain it in a fun, like in a way that would make you want to read this. But there is this like love triangle. It's epic. There is gods, there is magic, there is battles. Celia is this badass female who isn't afraid to take names. She fights she can fight really well. And yeah, I just love it. There's like this forbidden romance element, and just a lot of trauma, a lot of pain, and it's absolutely one of my favorite books of all time. Then we have Her Feral Beasts by E.P. Bally. This is a reverse harem sort of scenario. Again, where we're following our main character who it's been foretold that she is going to have 5 mates, and these are some of the most dangerous mates of all time. So when she was younger and the prophetess came out and said this, her father has banned her from revealing her mate mark, so she has hidden this with her powers that she also shouldn't have, which her father makes her also hide. And she ends up on the run from certain things that have happened and gets caught and ends up being put into this prison, like this school for feral beasts, and 3 of her mates turn up there, and it's this will they, won't they, how is she going to escape, how is she going to get out of this, this whole dynamic is insane. Savage is an absolute psycho, and I love him, and he also has a pet chicken, and it's just wonderful, and I cannot wait to continue with this series. It's so freaking good. It's so fun. It's fast paced. they're insane, and I love every single second of it, and I cannot wait to continue with this series because I'm absolutely going to be doing that. Almost there, guys. The next one is The Poisoned Daughter by someone who's already been on this list, and that is Sheila Masterson. This is another one that I absolutely fell in love with and was reading within the binge series of the Lost God series. So this is Sheila's latest release, and this book has blown up. It's got like 10 million reads on on Kindle Unlimited, and it's just #1 in the fantasy category in Amazon, and I'm just very, very happy. But in this one, we're following our main character, who is a widow, who is also sort of like the daughter of the ruler of this city, and she is also a vigilante who will go out and kill men because they've been beating or hurting their wives. And she does this all through the poison that runs through her body, so with just one single kiss she can destroy these men. And she ends up being married off to a neighboring kingdom that they thought never existed, and she is kind of thrust into this position of, she tried to kill this man last night and it didn't work, and she doesn't know why, and she needs to figure out why and how she can actually kill him, but also doing her parents' bidding by trying to find information about this world. It is dark. It is a chunky book. Our main character goes through so much pain, so much trauma, and so does Henry, who is the male main character. And just watching them on this very slow burn romance, at certain points I thought that they were never going to get together towards the end of this book. Like, it was insane. The tension, the banter, just the dynamic between both of them was insane, and I just loved every single second of it. Sheila can do no wrong in my eyes. Her writing is stunning, beautiful. There was so much pain, there was so much grit, there was so much atmosphere, and I just loved every single second of this book. We have 3 more to go, and the third to last is Language of Dragons by S.F. Williamson. I didn't really know what this was about, but one of my friends has been screaming about this book for a long, long time, and I decided to pick it up. And I listened to an audio, and this completely surprised me. Like, I had no idea. Like, it sounds like this woman, Vivian Featherswallow, she's like studying dragon languages. She's a polyglot, and there's this war brewing, and she's not really flustered about it at all. And it was like this Victorian England setting, but with dragons, and I was like, oh, okay, it's going to be like some fantasy story. But immediately I got sucked in. I fell in love with Vivian. I fell in love with the world that we're in. I loved the setting. I loved the drama. I loved everything about this book, and it completely caught me by surprise. And I'm immediately going to be picking up book 2 once I get my hands on it. But yeah, she ends up being recruited to uncover these secrets of a hidden dragon language, and she ends up being sort of like thrust between the government and like these rebels, and it's just so wonderful. And I just had no expectations going in, and I just fully fell in love with this story. It is so good, and I just had an amazing time, and I'm shocked. Another author of mine, this author is one that I knew I was going to love just from following her on Instagram and interacting with her on Instagram and seeing the person that she is. And I finally picked up one of her books in 2025, and that is Skin of a Sinner by Avina St. Graves. So this is a dark romance where we're following our main character. What is her name? Isabella. And she has had a rocky childhood, and so has our male main character Roman, and they kind of came together as children, and Roman kind of protected her, and they became the best of friends. But they both fell in love with one another, and Roman left her, and she's been dealing with that for the past 3 years, until one night she wakes up and she comes downstairs, and Roman Riviera is killing her foster family who've been treating her unwell, and kind of ends up getting taken by him. And we watch them in this past and present timeline the past timeline of how they met and how they became each other's rocks and how they fell in love with one another, and then the present timeline of Isabella coming face to face with Roman after 3 years of having left and having no idea where he was and not believing that he loved her and he wanted to be with her, and just their dynamic. And it was just so good. I really, really loved it. Roman is psycho, but we love psycho men in this household, and I just had a really great time, and I'm very excited to continue with more from Avina. She is just hilarious and I cannot wait to continue. And the 20th book and the last book on this list that is one of my favorites of 2025 is Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff. Now, she is chunky. This took me a while to read, but I love J. Kristoff. I love the Nevernight Chronicles by him, so I knew I was going to love this. This is vampires. It is very J. Kristoff. Like, if I didn't know J. Kristoff written this, I would have been able to read it and tell you that J. Kristoff written it, just because of the overlying snarkiness. But anyway, this is a dark fantasy story where we're following Gabriel de Leon, and he is the last Silver Saint, and we're following, like, this story opens up with Gabriel being captured by vampires, and before they kill him they want his life story. So then we are going through his past timeline of how we became a Silver Saint and how we met this person and how he did this and how he did that, and just following his story of him being the last Silver Saint and how he became to be. And this whole book has like these gorgeous illustrations the whole way through, and we just learn so much about him. And I love the dynamic. I love the kind of found family sort of scenario in here. J. Kristoff holds no punches with this. I love the snarkiness, I love the sarcasm, I love the humor, I love just everything about it. The setting, this take on vampires is just amazing. I love vampires and I love J. Kristoff, so we were going to love this one. Like, there was no doubt about it. Every single second of me reading this book was just a lot of fun, even though it did take me a while. But yeah, that is my best books of 2025. The whole stack of 20. I did read 64 5-star reads in the month in the year of 2025, so whittling it down to 20 was quite difficult, but these are the best of the best, the creme de la creme of my reads of 2025, and I cannot wait to bring you my 2026 list. But if you like this video, make sure you give it a like, comment down below what your favorite book of 2025 was, and subscribe if you want to see more content from me. Bye.